very happy to have those persons who supported the bill.
Yes.
And who care about children and their physical and mental well-being.
Representative Alma Allen.
Alma Allen, representing Houston, the south side of Houston, District 131.
Right on. And are you the lady responsible for turning in HB 359?
I am the sponsor. I'm the filer of the bill.
That is so incredible.
Wouldn't be a bill without her. So
I
it's
know.
a bipartisan bill, so we did it together.
I'm Representative Nash from Arlington. I represent Arlington, Mansfield, and Grand Prairie.
Right on. Barbara Nash, I understand she's Republican and you're Democrat.
Right.
And the thing is that I'm so excited about is that, you know, there's a reputation out there that Republicans do not care about children and they're not protecting them. And I wanted to have this interview because it's just not true. It has to do with the person's heart. And Barbara, your heart came right through. And as co-sponsor, I want to personally thank you for what you've done, and of course, Alma Allen for putting the bill in. Yeah, we have a few questions though. Tell us about HB 359. Some people may not be familiar. Tell them what the bill represents and what it will do for our children.
Want to do that, Barbara?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Go ahead.
Well, we started out when we first met, and we decided that we both had a passion for getting rid of corporal punishment in Texas. And actually, when I was elected to the school board in Arlington, we immediately, the day I was elected on a Saturday, and by Monday they said we would take corporal punishment out of the discipline policy. And I said good, because I'd been trying for about 20 years to get them to stop hitting children with boards in Arlington.
Wow.
So Alma asked me what my interests were, and I told her children, and I'd been on CASA. And I kind of started out, well, you know, we want to lower taxes, and I was giving her the kind of stump speech, you know, and she said, no, what are you really interested in? And I said, I would really like to abolish corporal punishment in Texas. And she went, oh my, you know, that's what she's been trying to do for years. But
exactly.
It has to be bipartisan because we need both of the parties working together for the protection of children.
Exactly. And Representative Alma, let me ask you this. If Barbara were not around, what would you have done? Would you have found somebody else?
I'm lucky to have Barbara there.
Exactly.
I probably would have hooked up with somebody, but we're seatmates. It's amazing. We are seatmates, and she was perfect for it. She had the energy, the desire. It was heart for her. We just had both of us had the same energy and exuberance about this bill, and we both wanted it to go. It wasn't like I had to drag her anywhere. I had to slow her down sometimes but we were just perfect for each other.
Right.
And so she helped so much on getting the Republicans to support the bill.
Well, you know what? I would like to take a minute, Barbara. Tell me what it was like for you to persuade. I mean, we're talking about a bill that almost died, and we were almost finished. What did you say to those guys and girls out there?
Well, first, it was such a learning experience for me because I didn't know that you could go back and revote. You know, but I do know parliamentary procedure, so I knew if somebody on the prevailing side came back, and so some people came up and said, well, we're really sorry it failed, but you know, so I realized there were some people who might go for it. And Alma said, you go talk to him, girl, go talk to him. So I just went around to the ones that I'd helped them with their bills, and I introduced them to people and worked with them, and so I was nervous about it, but we came back, and my staff called everyone, and really pushed me to stay after it, and I did.
God bless you for that. That's awesome. And
the other thing that I want you to know is that this is the 4th time I filed this bill.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So this is the first time we have gotten this bill even heard. But you have to know I filed 2 bills. 916 was to completely, totally abolish it.
Right.
I filed the second bill just in case,
Right.
a compromise bill. People were telling me I could vote for it if you put this in. So we filed a compromise bill. So we had 2 bites at the apple, which would have been good, I thought. So coming through committee, coming to the floor, coming to the vote, it was moving along, and then it got to the big hurdle and kind of died for about an hour or two. Was it about an hour or two?
Yeah.
So we jumped right on it and saw who was voting for it and who didn't vote for it, and just walked the floor until we found people who were really supportive of it, but just did not quite understand
Right,
it.
right.
And the bill took a complete flip-flop. It really did end up being a parents' rights bill, which I'm proud of. I'm glad of that.
Yes.
And so it had parental rights, the rights of parents to have a say over whether or not their children are administered corporal punishment.
Right.
And so I think that was the thing that sold the bill. And I want to say, Barbara, I want to say you championed that. That's what I want to say. I'm going to say it anyway.
Yes, yes.
Because I was a 916 person.
Right,
And
right.
she was really championing the parental rights bill.
Very good,
I
very
knew that was
good.
the only thing the Republicans would go for.
Well,
Because they don't
yes.
want us to tell the school districts what to do, even though they're
Right.
making bad choices. So this is a start.
That was, you did such an excellent job. I would like you to tell me, maybe, give me 2 or 3 reasons that people actually were unwilling to sign the bill. Like when you would go to people and say, no, no, no. Could you tell us maybe just 2, maybe 3 reasons? Why would somebody...
Well, it's kind of ingrained.
Let's
You
hear
gotta
it.
know that corporal punishment is used in many households. So it's ingrained particularly in some cultures.
Right.
And particularly those members who are from the rural area would say, well, out in the country, that's what we do. And so nobody's going to tell me how to raise my child or if my child's going to be administered corporal punishment.
Exactly.
So that's the my parents hit me, so I'm okay, but you're
Right.
not okay.
Yeah,
my
yeah,
parents
really.
hit me, and I'm okay. So I think it's a good thing to do for children. They have to have discipline. They have
Right.
to have something to make them stop and think. But that was kind of the real reason the one I heard most of the time.
Okay.
Well, what are teachers going to do if you can't hit them? You know,
Yeah, like that's the only option is hitting and suspension.
No other option except hitting.
There's a bazillion
And
good ones.
They just don't know about
Exactly.
classroom management and
They're not
positive
teaching it.
discipline and mediation in the classroom.
Exactly.
Because when I was a school administrator, I used mediation in my school. Everybody in my school knew mediation.
Right
Even
on.
the children. Children would mediate their own conflicts
Very
over
good.
in the corner.
Very
And then
good.
I would mediate when they come to my office.
Very
I didn't
good.
have time to be the disciplinarian.
Yeah, and that's what helps them become independent
That's
thinkers
right.
and leaders.
Children are children.
Exactly.
That's the pedagogy.
Yes.
They do what children do.
Exactly, and they
At
shouldn't
their
be
age,
beaten for
they
that.
do it.
Exactly.
And so we have to learn where children are and the way they think at that
Exactly.
age.
Exactly. So it sounds like one of the bigger reasons was the fact that this is a cultural thing or it's an old school thing.
Yes.
And then you had to speak to the senators. Tell me some of the things that you actually said. I mean, I understand about the parental rights, but what were some of the other things that you had to say to have them come on your side? I mean, you brought this
Part
thing
of it
to
was-
life again.
Was you have, 3 or 4 children, do you treat them all the same? Do you always administer paddling to all your children? And I would have some of them say, oh, no, I wouldn't hit my girl.
Yeah.
And I'd go, you don't have that right.
Yeah.
If the corporal punishment is in that school, you can't say you can hit my boy, but you can't hit my girl.
Exactly.
Because that doesn't make any sense. And I raised 5 children, and you treat all children differently. I mean, they're different personalities, and for a teacher to just line a bunch of children up and hit them with a board makes no sense.
Right,
whatsoever.
right, exactly.
And I've had people say, well, if 2 boys are out there on the playground fighting, I just bring them in and paddle them. And I said, you're just showing them that you're more violent than
That
they are.
Exactly. Imagine hitting somebody to teach them not to hit.
One of
It
the
makes
most
no
violent
sense.
acts you'll ever see in a house is someone hitting a kid.
Yes,
On this
exactly.
beautiful body God gave us,
Exactly.
Every bit of this body has a function, and you're interrupting that flow of life when you hit on the body.
Yeah, let alone teaching them to then do it
Yes.
to your grandchildren,
Yes.
and so on.
Right, it goes from generation to generation,
Exactly.
and the next generation will hit the next generation. At some point, we have to stop.
Exactly. Now, I want to just bring up Representative Harold Dutton. I met him in the hallway, and he said, I'll never sign HB 916, and he was on his pedestal. But tell me, did he ever come around to it?
Yes,
Did
he
he
did.
sign it?
Yes, he did.
Say it louder.
Tell him
Yes, he did.
Tell him what he told you.
Yeah, he said he
And
talked to one of his former principals on one weekend,
Uh-huh.
and she was talking about the paddling bill, and she told him the times have changed. For during the time you were going to school, teachers really cared about you, and when they paddled you or hit you, they could also love you. They hit you because they love you. And things have changed in the classroom. It's only a discipline measure now. And so she said that during this time, I would not let anyone hit my kid. You got to know there are many other reasons why people hit each other too.
Right.
And you have to be very, very careful that they're not going to other extremes, not just for discipline, but for other things that you might want to hit people for.
Exactly. So you're telling us that Representative Harold Dutton came around and he signed.
And a champion, and was a champion for the bill.
He
really was.
Was he? Would you give him my
Yes,
thank
I
you?
will.
Would you tell him thank you for
I
me?
really will, because he's been real good about that.
I am so happy to hear that and to report that because I was very concerned. Another question I have, now that we're all very sure that Governor Perry is going to sign this bill. Now, let's say the bill is signed and it's all good. How are you going to see to it that these schools, particularly in the smaller towns of 2,000, where this is really happening the most, how are you going to ensure that those teachers are abiding by it? I mean, slavery ended in 1863, but it went on into the 40s and 50s. What are you going to do to make sure these kids are not being
This is not
struck?
that era. This is not that era.
Okay, so how are we going to make sure?
You can believe that everybody knows about it right
Very
now.
good.
The media, cell phone, the TV, during the time of slavery.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the state of Texas, we served 2 more years after
Exactly.
slavery was over.
Yeah.
There were no cell phones, no TVs, no Twitter, no Facebook, none
No
of that.
iPods.
Communication is
Yeah.
instant right now, and the law is there. You can believe superintendents know right now that this bill has passed.
Okay.
So it's not that difficult to get it down.
Very
But the other
good.
thing is, you have to remember it's a parents' rights bill. Parents have the right. And I think that's great, that everybody has the right. That no longer will children who for any reason, particularly children who are special education, with our large autism population,
Right.
with our large special education population, that we hit kids because kids cannot function the way normal kids do it, and because we don't know how to address their problems.
Exactly. I have one last question for both of you, and I will ask Barbara, you answer first, and then I want to hear from you. You two are in a group of legislators. It must be at least 180 of you total, Senate and House together? At least 180?
150 in the
150.
House and 31 in the Senate.
Okay, so collectively about 180
Yes.
people. But the two...
181.
About 181. And out of that whole crowd, here we have Representative Barbara and Representative Alma.
Right.
What is it about the two of you that make you passionate enough to have seen to it about this bill? Like, how did you become interested in this? And I just want to hear about that. Why you, out of 181 people, spoke out for the
when
children?
I had my children, my oldest is 44 now, and when I had my daughter, my grandfather said, hitting children is wrong. And he said you can discipline them without hitting them. He said, how could you hit anything on that little body? And I said, well, you're right, and that's not telling them no, they shouldn't touch something or something like that, but
Just a nonviolent
and
way.
he was just adamant against it, and I was paddled growing up, and he thought it was wrong, and so he told me. He said, I just want you to raise your children without hitting them. And he said, when I was a kid, they horsewhipped us for discipline, and so he had such a passion for it, and I became a CASA volunteer, a child advocate, and I had seen a lot of kids get paddled for bringing their uniforms back dirty in football. Just
silly things.
Really uneducated means of discipline, and I've even told the coaches, we have washer and dryers here in the school.
Yeah.
Teach those children to laundry their own clothes, because they can't help it that their parents didn't provide a washer and dryer for them to wash their clothes. So I think it just became a real passion with me. And
How old were you when this gentleman spoke to you about that?
my grandfather.
Is this your grandpa? And how old were you?
Probably 22, 23 years old.
Okay. So you were an adult, and he's telling you you don't have to hit the child, your children.
Yes.
Right on. What's his name?
His name was Driver.
All right. Well, God bless that man.
Yeah, he's been gone a long time, but I learned a lot from him, and I think that if young people read the Bible and realize that you do learn a lot from the older people,
Yeah.
and value their wisdom, and I really always valued his wisdom about a lot of things.
Wow. Well, I'm glad his name is going to be in this recording so people will remember him for his goodness.
Yes.
Right on. And how about you,
When I was growing up, I got a lot of pops.
Let's hear it.
And I always thought when my mother, and I grew up in a single parent family, when my mother popped me, I'm thinking, you could have told me that. I'm not doing something wrong because I want to do wrong. I probably did something because I wasn't thinking, and I always would say, you could have talked to me about that.
Yes.
You didn't have to hit me.
Yeah.
But she did anyway, because I'm sure that's the way she grew up. And so because of that, when I had my children, I did not want to administer corporal punishment to my children. And so now I try to keep my children from hitting their children. That's the one thing that I do not want them to do to my grandchildren. No, that was my passion. And when I was, as you know, I was a teacher for 13 years and an assistant principal for 1 and a principal for 16. And teachers did not understand why I did not pop my children because I could talk to them. They were my friends. I was their mother. When the mothers were not there, I'm the person you come to. If you say his parents never to come to conference, then you come talk to me. I will be his or her parent. I told my you need a hug in the morning, you come to me because I'm your parent.
Right.
And so I was there. My passion is for children. And I don't think children need to be hit, demeaned, self-esteem torn down, made angry. The first thing you do when you get a whipping is you are angry, but you can't retaliate. So that's all bottled up on the inside of you. And that kind of negative passion drives you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. That's the first step to the prison system. And so I want them to live in a world of love. I want schools to be a pleasant place to be, where children want to go every day. Schools that don't paddle have high achievement. Schools who don't paddle have a better disciplined children. Children with positive attitudes and positive who want to come to children. Their ADA is higher. Their attendance rate is higher. Nobody wants to go into a place where you're going to get beat. You go there today, you're going to get beat. I'm not going. You know, so I'm not going into anywhere. I'm not staying in a marriage where I'm going to get beat. I'm not going to go to a school where I'm going to get beat. I want to be in a pleasant environment, and that's what schools should be. It should be the happiest place you go if you're going to spend 7 hours a day without threat of your life being taken, or you're going to get popped by the person you love. Children love teachers.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know what? I just want to thank both of you. It is a privilege for me to be here speaking to you, and I'm going to run around there and get a hug. So
Okay, thank you.
for both of you, thank you so much for what you did.
Oh, thank you so
It's
much.
all about children.
I want to
It's
say
all
one more
about
thing.
children.
And when I came here, I could pick any seat in the,
That's
right.
right.
that was available, and I sat down next to Alma. I mean, if that's not
And I'm
God
happy for it.
working together for us to take care of kids,
That's
I don't
right.
know.
All
What a
right.
miracle it was.
That is a miracle. I
So
mean,
now
this
we're
was
friends
meant
for
to
life.
be. Yes,
We're
this
friends
was
for
meant to
life.
be.
Because we have the same mission.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, you're both very beautiful women, and I thank you so much for your work, and can't wait to get this out there to the public. Stay right there. I'm going to switch gears and turn it into a camera and get your photograph.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.